Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Lee Gerstmann here, and I have a record review for you. I have to give a special thanks to Connor Stratton. He asked that I review an album by a group called Cauldron. The album is called In Ruin. He goes sometimes to a record shop where he gets stuff, and one of the members of the group Cauldron seems to own that shop. And so that's pretty cool. It reminds me of I lived in Fairfax, California, and Van Morrison's parents owned Caledonia Records, which was the record store where I went to. So I never met Van Morrison, but I met his parents, and they were really nice people. The dad, George Morrison, he was a little more distant at first if you didn't know him, but after you got to know him, he talked about the music that he liked, and he was a good guy to talk to. He was kind of like, you have to earn my knowledge first. You have to know me a little bit more before I tell you stuff. But when he did talk, he was a good guy, and I liked talking with him. And Violet, she was a little bit more like surface friendly, kind of like, hello, how are you? And was more like a hostess type of person. But if you asked her opinion, she told you. You know, she was just as honest as George, but she didn't necessarily give off at first the vibe of being someone who would tell you her opinion. But she did. But they were good people. And anyway, enough of that. The group Cauldron I had heard of, but I never heard any of their music. And this was a release that came out relatively recently, within like the last couple of years or so. And it surprisingly sounded like maybe 80s, or in some cases late 70s rock, which I have to give kudos to them to do it. But we're going to go through this song by song. So here we go. The first song, No Return and In Ruin. It's sort of like Judas Priest and Motorhead done like Dawkins. It's a filler tune in my opinion. Not the best way to start the album, but I do like the energy of the way they play. It's just that if I could eliminate one song from the album, it would be this one. And then Empress. This, in a twisted way, reminds me of a Foreigner song, like maybe Cold as Ice or Blue Morning, Blue Day, only in the sense that it's the second song on the album, and Foreigner has moody songs as their second songs on their early albums. Other than that, it sounds like an old Queensryche song, one that would be midpoint between the debut and the warning. It's not bad. Not my very favorite, but not at all bad. And then Burning at Both Ends. This is a bit like Crocus. I could hear this on Headhunter. It's a pretty good song. I like the musicianship on it. And then Hold Your Fire. This song sounds a lot like Dawkins, but if there were a second filler song on here, it would be this. It isn't quite as dynamic as the other songs on here, but it's still not at all a bad song. But yes, it's close to filler. And then Come Not Here. Oh, this is totally like Armored Saint, but in the best way. I could definitely hear this on their album March of the Saint. This song is extremely cool. I think it's great. And then Santa Mira. This is really cool. Kind of like Judas Priest, but also not like it. I could imagine Ace Frehley playing something like this on his next Origins album. This is a really good song. It kicks butt. And then Corridors of Dust. This has a slight Megadeth element to it, but that's a good thing. Not that I'd mistake it for Megadeth, believe me. It's original, but it has that same type of grit that Mustaine musters up. But I like that it's a melodic song. It's like Dokken, but for some reason I like this group more than Dokken. It's like they know what Dokken is trying to do, and these guys correct it, at least in this song. Either that, or I might rethink how I feel about Dokken. Yay or nay, I'll let you decide. But then again, I do prefer this group. And then Delusive Serenade. This sounds somewhat like Rough Cut, and I mean it as a compliment. It has a mellow beginning, but it's not sappy. It has a moody edge to it that I like a lot, and the heaviness that works really well. I can hear what Avenged Sevenfold do with this kind of song. They have a similar sound. I am wondering if Cauldron were influenced by Aldo Nova in any way. It's more intense than Aldo Nova, for sure. But the guitar sound makes me think of that comparison. Great guitar though. Really good song. And then Outrance. This is like an interesting combination of Foreigner, Armored Saint, and Queensryche. I like the guitar work and the rhythm of the guitars. It has a good energy to it, but it is also with a melodic sense to it. It isn't just bombastic to the point where nothing is discernible. These guys are real musicians who know how to play well. Good way to end the album. I would have to say I'm quite surprised and happy at a group like this. I thought when I heard it that it was from either the late 70s or the 80s. But if these guys are doing that kind of music now, this is more like the type of heavy rock that I like. I'm not into the music that sounds like you can't even understand what they're doing. These guys have musicianship. Maybe a couple of tunes I thought were a little bit like, well, it could be better, but overall, I could probably hear this all the way through and not complain. It's pretty damn good, and I want to thank you, Connor, for suggesting this group, because I might not have heard them right away if you had not suggested them. Anyway, this has been my review. Take care, everyone, and cheers.